Welcome to another edition of the Bullheaded Podcast. As usual, I am your host, Sean Tyson, here with Zoo and P-Bush. How you guys doing?
Doing well, man. Entering December, great month of the year, man. And the
Yep.
Bulls are flying right now, so can't complain there.
Oh, Shaw, I remember you were a hater when I said the Bulls are a top 4 seed. My God, I underrated them, man. They go for a top 1 seed now, man. They go for the top 1 seed. Not even I saw top 1 seed, but my oh my, Brooklyn Nets, New York Knicks, man, they king of New York, baby. They swept New York, man. They came to my city, swept the New York teams, and it was so beautiful to watch, man. Every second. Shout outs to DeMar DeRozan. Hope you get better after COVID, man, because I need you back on the team. Because Zach LaVine can't drop 32 every game, man. He can't drop 32 every game.
Yeah.
The East is definitely looking very different than what a lot of people thought it was going to look like. You could probably say the same for the West. That's going to be in a couple future shows that we're going to start talking about once the NBA really starts cranking up. It's a lot of different type of things going on with that league. But wanted to start off, as usual, with the NFL. Week 13, saw a lot of, decent games. Like I said, it's always a playoff push and things of that nature. So I wanted to ask the guys, what were their takeaways from Week 13? And, P-Wish, I'm going to start with you.
Man, I just got to give a quick shout out to the Detroit Lions, man. They finally got their first win. It was actually a pretty damn good game. Goff actually looked comfortable. I mean, he had nearly 300 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. I feel like that's kind of what we saw in L.A. out of him most games. And not to say that he was an unbelievable $100 million quarterback like he is paid that way, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, man, he's coming on pretty nice as a young receiver there in Detroit, especially in a place that completely lacks any weapons on the outside, except for maybe a TJ Hawkinson play here or there. Jamal Williams stepped up. They pretty much matched everything that Minnesota did. Dalvin Cook out, Madison comes in, kind of does his job, low yards per carry. But man, oh man, Jared Goff in a 2-minute drill driving him down on the final opportunity of the game. And the Vikings just blew a coverage, man. I know that they're missing Thielen. They lost him early in the game, but that team we thought might be trending up, they're kind of trending downwards right now. And with Thielen out possibly a couple weeks, no IR apparently, but a couple weeks, I'm interested to see where the Vikings go. But once again, shout out to the Detroit Lions, man. They've earned at least one.
This crazy thing is they win the one game without DeAndre Swift, their best player. Their running back is injured, and they won the game. Coincidence? I don't know, because he's a pretty damn good player. But I just know that was pretty funny. But Sean, I got to give a shout out to you, man. Elijah Moore, man. He looking pretty special, man.
Yeah.
He looking pretty special, man. Like, this guy has been hella productive for the last couple of weeks. Like, his receiving yards and getting touchdowns on, you know my feelings about the Jets and that pathetic offense and the pick machine known as Zach Wilson, who threw another pick. But at least it wasn't 2 picks. It was only 1 pick this game. So that's actually improvement. Elijah Moore, this dude, not going to lie, fantasy next year, I'm gonna get this dude, man. I feel like this dude, like outside, like he has all these things going against him. Quarterback situation, bad franchise, coaching, and not the greatest offensive head coach, more of a defensive head coach. Like, he has all these things going against him, but he took the job, man. With Corey Davis regressing a little, like he's having a couple off games. Elijah Moore has established himself as the number 1 wide receiver threat in that offense, and he has been hella productive, man. And I just got to shout out to the rookie class again. Mm-hmm. This rookie class, oh my Lord, man. Like, Elijah Moore has joined that rookie class of elite wide receivers now. He's making people know his name.
You putting him up there with Waddle and JaMarr Chase right now?
Yeah. You look at situation-wise. It's a bad situation.
Oh, horrible.
It's awful. Like, JaMarr Chase obviously has Joe Burrow as his college buddy throwing it to him. So, like, okay, he's by far has the the most productive season right now. And even Jalen Waddle even bounced back too after Tua coming back. Him are building chemistry. But yeah, I'm putting Elijah Moore in the conversation now with all these stud receivers.
Wow. I mean, Waddle. Go ahead, Sean.
Just imagine if he gets maybe in the future Russell Wilson throwing to him. He might explode even more as one of the New York teams. Even though that's probably a real long shot, but you never know.
I still like your Giants play personally for Russell Wilson. I thought that was actually, with everything else that they have, that'd be a nice fit. But look, man, Elijah Moore, I took Sean's advice, drafted him in my keeper league, man, in my dynasty. Gave him a 4-year contract for $1, increasing only 15% each year. So if he ends up popping off, I think he's just under 600 yards for the season. If he continues how he's been playing, he might have a 1,000-yard season, which as a rookie, I'm sure you get a nice little bonus in there with, Waddle and JaMarr Chase will obviously both be hitting that 1,000 yards probably in the next game, honestly. But yeah, I mean, there were a couple other good games. I mean, I still don't understand what the hell the Ravens were thinking going for 2 against the Steelers in the end. I mean, the Steelers gave them a gift.
I like the guts. Guts.
Not when you're 8-3 and you win that game. You still hold the number 1 seed.
If they get the extra point, you go to OT, right? You go to OT. And
right.
OT, who knows? That's a coin flip, man.
True.
It's a coin. Like, obviously, if you don't control if you get the coin flip or not, you got to get a stop. Their secondary was shredded, so they didn't really trust the defense. True. And you have an opportunity to just get 2 points and give it to your best player and see what he could do and get it done. I like the balls, man. I like the balls.
He just missed the throw, man.
He's playing awful.
Mark Andrews.
Lamar Jackson has played ever since that historic game against the Colts.
Yeah,
like one of the most all-time games. Like, this dude just had the greatest game probably of his career, because that is hard to repeat. He's been regressing a little, and he's been missing throws because he's not a natural pass guy. And I feel like I liked him this year as a potential MVP caliber season, but this regression for the last couple of weeks knocked him out of that conversation.
I think if he throws 4 more picks this year, he'll have the total in this year compared to the sum of his last 3 seasons. Total interceptions thrown.
Yeah, that's wild.
I mean,
that's wild.
That's a pretty big stat and a big drop off. But granted, at the same time, they're out. They're without J.K. Dobbins. They've historically had great running backs that they could rely on. Now it's pretty much all on his shoulders.
He's making a reincarnation right now. He's coming back.
Yeah, he is. They just, for some reason, they just really couldn't get anything going against Pittsburgh. I know it's the rivalry and all that, but that was a must win for Pittsburgh, and they are very lucky to squeak out of there with that 1-point win, man.
Yeah, I think Lamar is kind of weird too with his regression, because even though you could say his running backs have been not as, it's not J.K. Dobbins, he has more weapons on the outside. Like, Marquise has stepped up a lot this year. Rashad Bateman's going to step up.
Dropped a donut. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Marquise. He's been very hit. I mean, he's been consistent for most of the year, but he's had some games, considering I've been a fantasy owner, where I needed him to have big weeks. But I guess that's just how it goes with a receiver like him. But, Bateman being a guy that's coming into his own, he's always had Mark Andrews. He missed Mark a lot in that game, especially on that 2-point. I think that was to Mark. He just missed him by a little bit, and that kind of cost him the game. So I don't know. I just don't know if it's more so defenses are just kind of getting into his head or things like that. But he definitely has regressed over the last couple of weeks. So it's going to be interesting to see, once they get into the playoffs, if he can make that step. Because that's another thing that's part of his resume also, is that playoff type of play that he's had. And until he gets, at least a championship game or the Super Bowl, that's going to be one thing that's going to be hanging over his head. So I'm going to be interested to see what goes into that. But, I want to shout out, 2 franchises that are, the Eagles had a horrible loss last week. Kind of bounced back with Gardner Minshew going into the bye week. I think that was just pretty cool as a storyline, seeing Gardner come in. And I think he completed like 14 or 15 in the first half, or went perfect for the first half. So that was just really cool to see, because, a lot of people gave him flack of how he played in Jacksonville. And I just think, I wouldn't say I would throw him as a starter anytime soon, but it's just really cool to see he's going to be in the league for a long time, because if you can have your backup come in and do that when your starters hurt, you're going to have it's like Chase Daniel. It's like how Chase Daniel is.
And the Eagles will always want to have a nice little backup based on how Nick Foles treated them that one year, man. If you have a backup quarterback and you have a running, possibly injury-prone QB that's out of the pocket all the time, you want a guy that can get in there, stand in the pocket, and throw 80% completion and still be able to throw down the field to your boy Quez Watkins.
Yeah, Quez. That's another guy I'm really, really going to be investing. I'm probably going to follow him on IG and just see how he's training in off season, because he's going to be another guy that I can get maybe in the mid rounds that people are not looking at. Because I think Rieger will still be on the roster next year, but I think Quez is going to lead him in terms of production next year. Because I just think he's in this facet of where he could be a nice number 2.
He's a good compliment to Devontae.
Yeah, I think he'd be a good compliment to him. And I also want to shout out the Dolphins. Tua, he got beat up at the beginning of the year. Everybody was talking about, hey, we're getting Deshaun Watson. You're just playing for your spot in Houston right now. And he's turned it around. Jalen Waddle has been part of that emergence. And, and Miami doesn't really – and if you really look at Miami's weapons, a lot of people say, well, they had a lot of weapons they were going to have coming into the year. But I couldn't even name their running back right now. I know they have Waddle.
Miles Gaskins.
Gaskins, yeah. And shout out to the guy at the beginning of the year who tried to trade me Gaskins for Coppers. I still never forget that. What a swindle that was going to be. But, I think they have shown a lot of toughness, and I think that comes from the head coach, Brian Flores. And I think he's put himself in a position where he's kind of maybe saved his job for this year. And, I still don't know what the direction is going to be, because I've kind of read some things on how there was a little bit of a hang-up in the Watson situation to where the owner just didn't want to sign off. So I think they're going to try to ride that to the offseason. And you guys know how big of a Watson fan is, so I'm still making that trade. But Tua's putting a lot of doubt, I guess, in the owner's mind. Like, hey, look, we kind of got something with Tua. He's starting to get it around, and maybe if we just build around him, that might be a situation that Miami could maybe get into better seeding for next year and try to make a playoff push next year. It's going to be kind of hard in that division, but Buffalo and
they were 10-6 last year.
Yeah,
I mean, they were up there with the Colts. I think they ended up having the Colts had the tiebreaker over them. But look, I mean, they had a decent season last year. They lost 7 in a row. I think they started 1-0, and then they ended up 1-7. Now they've won 5 in a row that Tua's back. So if you're looking at those games that they lost early on mid-season without Tua, and you're asking, to judge that team on Jacoby Brissett being behind the helm, I mean, I don't think you can really blame that one on Brian Flores. So I agree with you. He for sure has saved his season because they're also playing damn well defensively. And I know they're not playing like the greatest of competition all the time, but if you're holding the Giants to 9 points, like that's what you're supposed to do. So you're getting the job done. You're forcing turnovers, even if it is Mike Glennon at quarterback on the other side. That was painful to watch, man.
I didn't even know he was still in the league.
Yeah, me neither. And he was on the Bears.
Was that the guy the Bears paid a lot of money to back up?
Yes, it was. They let Mitch learn under him, of all people, man. That's just, we're not even going to go there. But yeah, no, I mean, the Dolphins, if they weren't, I think if the Patriots weren't so good this year, they'd actually be vying with the Bills right now based on how they're kind of trending downwards as well. Especially with that rush defense, man. Whew. They got destroyed.
Yeah, they did yesterday. And the Bills players were pissed off. I don't even know who the guys were in the interview, but they were really pissed off with whoever reporter said that.
It was Jordan Poole and Micah Hyde, man. They were like not having it. I mean, they asked Mac to throw 3 times. I mean, that is ridiculous. I've never seen somebody dominate by only using one facet of offense. It was just like run the ball in between the tackles, and we're just going to beat you and grind you out. That's the most Belichick thing ever, man.
Genius of Bill.
Damian Harris, man, that one beautiful run, man. That's all they needed, man. That's all they needed. One play.
So we're going to continue, like I said, with the playoffs coming up, with the NFL and these division races getting tighter. We're going to continue to have great coverage on that. But as you guys know, we're kind of a fantasy-focused podcast with a little bit of talk that we do sometimes. And I wanted to get the guys' thoughts on some of their most valuable players for a couple of positions: quarterback, running back, receiver, and a rookie of the year in fantasy. Me personally haven't had the greatest of fantasy year. Fought back towards the end, but missed it by a little bit. But there has been a couple of players that I took that I wasn't quite sure on, but I was just looking at the potential, and they kind of panned out for me. So I wanted to ask the guys who are some of their players they saw as most valuable. And Zoo, I want you to lead this one off.
Man, this one hurts me, man, because I don't have him on any of my teams. I did not see this coming, but Leonard Fournette, man. I still remember Leonard Fournette on the Jaguars. I remember when he was drafted as a rookie, because I remember, Pat, we were in college together. Leonard, we were watching college football. I don't know why, but I remember this dude just running for LSU. I'm looking at this bullet. I'm like, who the hell is that guy?
30-year-old.
Yeah, I'm like, who the hell is this dude? This is a grown man. I'm like, I'm going to draft him in fantasy football. And that man was Leonard Fournette. I had no idea who he was, what that team was, but I saw that guy playing college one play. I'm like, this dude's a fantasy beast. And after the Jaguars, thought his career fell off, man. But Tom Brady, the fountain of youth, man. Leonard Fournette has been an absolute animal in the passing game. Like in the passing game, they use him as I thought Giovanni Bernard was going to be the receiving guy, but Leonard Fournette has taken over as that guy in the red zone too. Well, Tom Brady, a little dump off to Leonard Fournette, get that easy tutty, man. My golly, right now, he's the 4th best fantasy running back right now in fantasy football. And this guy was drafted in the 80s. In the 80s, man. And this guy, he was on waivers too. One of our buddies, Mr. David Doherty, dropped in week 2, and he's gonna forever regret that because he dropped an RB1.
Yeah, he did drop it. He dropped a top 5 running back. That's a great pick, dude, because I think that, if you're looking for like an MVP at each position, I feel like they're all relatively obvious. You got Cooper for sure at wide receiver. I think we can all agree on that. I feel like he's got 5 feet of separation every damn throw put his way, man. I mean, he's the best route runner in the league. I'm sure everybody saw his extremely detailed post-game press of how he got open on one play, and he's just jargon left and right. The guy clearly knows what he's talking about. He's got 100 catches already, over 1,300 yards, and 11 touchdowns. So and he went in the 4th, 5th round in most leagues. So you're looking at that, but Zoo, if you're going value, I think Cordero Patterson has to be thrown into the mix. He's only
waiver. He was undrafted in all my leagues. I think he was undrafted.
He might have been a garbage time pick in the 16th round in some very deep leagues. But a lot of people thought Mike Davis was going to do more there. They eventually realized that Cordero can get you 500 rushing yards and 500 receiving yards like that through 10 games. He's been hurt for a couple, but the guy puts up touchdowns. He's a PPR monster. So if he ends up signing, I don't know what his contract is in Atlanta, but they're going to try and utilize him the same exact way next year. And I still don't think teams can really stop him because he is such a specimen. He's just huge for how fast he is. So I, unfortunately, similar to you, Zoo, did not have any Cordero Patterson stock, but I watched in amazement from afar.
I was able to pick him up with my fab budget, and I was able to flip him. But not gonna lie, I think I technically lost the trade.
You might have.
I traded Deebo Samuels and Cordero Patterson, 2 top 10 at each of their position for Devontae Adams, who was top 10. So based on total points, Deebo Samuels has scored more than Devontae Adams.
Absolutely.
And obviously Cordero Patterson has been a must start for the last 10 weeks. So technically I have lost the trade, but these guys, what a surprise. And Deebo Samuels is another dude, man. Yeah. I was able to draft him probably in the 90s and 100s. And this guy, we forget, this guy was really young. This guy just had a catastrophic injury last year, so I feel like people just forgot about him. But I remember his comparison was he's like a hybrid type guy, sort of similar to Cordero, a guy that plays running back and wide receiver. The way they use him is a little like Tyreek Hill too, and on the run play. So he's very dynamic, and he has taken over as the wide receiver 1 position. Brandon Ayuk, stop it. Deebo Samuels is the guy in that offense.
And everybody thought Brandon was going to be possibly the number 1, and I did draft him in that sense, mainly because I was like, oh, Deebo's coming off an injury. It's going to take him a while. Nope, Kyle Shanahan throws him right in the offense and pretty much plays him at running back half the time, which I don't think anybody saw that coming. At least the utilization in running back that he's been getting. But that's a great one too. I'm very mad I didn't get any Deebo stock.
You know what Deebo? You know what I think what Deebo was? Deebo, and this is because he went to the University of South Carolina, he had a huge injury history. And I think with him, it was kind of more so he started getting some of those nagging injuries and things like that in the pros. And they always say, if you're hurt in college, you're hurt in the pros. So a lot of people, because I think he went really low on my draft too, for a receiver that's, considered maybe a top 1 or 2 for a team. So I think it's just because he was so injured. And this year he stayed pretty much healthy. So with that, he is a super versatile player. So if he can stay healthy, that's the key. If he can stay healthy in a contact sport, he's going to put up numbers because, like you say, IU kind of showed glimpses last year, but it's obvious that they, I think Deebo got taken by them at the top of the 2nd round. He was a guy that they really had a lot of stock in. And like you say, he's built he's 6 foot, 210, 215 pounds. He's built like a running back. Yeah, you can use, and like you say, with Kyle Shanahan, you're going to be probably running the ball regardless of what position you're playing. You're going to do something
True.
back there. So, that was another reason why I think Deebo was such an underrated guy.
That's a great pick. Sean, what's another one of yours, though?
One that I wouldn't say it was a sleeper pick, but one that I was really happy with was Jalen Hurts. Because when I took him, I felt like I reached because I just felt like somebody was going to take him 3 or 4 picks later. So I was like, I'm just going to take him. Not really thinking, I was thinking to myself in my head, he's going to be a guy that I'm probably going to replace or trade out and get, another guy that's a solid starter. But he ended up playing really well for the first couple of weeks. And he's part of the reason why I would say I was able to fight towards the end, even though last week was awful. But outside of that, he had a lot of good games that I was surprised he had. And I think he's a guy that, with more I guess, reps and things like that. Next year is going to be a really big year for him. But I think if he continues to go on that trajectory, he could be a player that could maybe be in that top. Because I think this year, I don't even know where he was ranked, but he was up there in terms of like points.
Oh yeah,
5 maybe 6 somewhere around.
Top 4 quarterback. He has scored more than Patrick Mahomes, who was
as Zoo predicted, and I had to give him shout outs because he was my MVP, partially because you're looking at all the quarterbacks, and it's kind of just been a weird year for fantasy overall. You know, you got all those first round running backs getting injured, right? And then you got Kyler, a lot of people's number 1 quarterback, out. Josh Allen's he's been extremely inconsistent. Stafford's kind of fallen a little bit. And then you look at the 2 old heads, man, Rodgers and Brady, and they're probably the most consistent. But if you were looking for like a value and you're like an MVP, it's got to be Hurts, man, because even when he's not throwing the ball, you know, he doesn't throw for 300. He throws for about 200, maybe a touchdown, possibly a pick. But he'll give you 60 rushing yards and a touchdown, or maybe even 2. And that alone just makes up for it, which is kind of the value that we've seen Lamar have in the past.
Yeah, this guy already has 695 yards right now, so he's on pace for 1,000 yards. One of my predictions. Go. Oh, he's gonna hit that. He's gonna hit that, man. 1,000 yards, and he has 8 rushing touchdowns.
Yep.
Yeah. 8 rushing touchdowns.
It's ridiculous.
He's a running back. This guy is a quarterback right now, and that's why he's so valuable. Because when you watch him throw the football, especially in the first half, man, it's pretty ugly, man. It's pretty ugly.
It is.
Only when he gets down is when he
starts. When he gets down, that second half, the garbage time. Oh, he money in the bank in garbage time.
Oh yeah.
Now we got to see him in close games. Now we got to see him in close games, though.
That's another
see if he can match.
Another guy who I tried to trade for, I think in like week 4, 3 or 4, and I couldn't get a good enough trade package, and that guy smart was Jonathan Taylor. Because if you looked at the beginning of his season, he had a really rough start to the season.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like it was like, you know, a little bit of a panic by the owners, because even though a lot of those backs that were the big backs that got injured later on in the season, he was kind of one of the big backs. I think he got maybe taken 5th in our league, 5th or 6th. And a lot of people are like, okay, like Jonathan Taylor is like the guy that's going to might be splitting time with somebody later in the season. And he just exploded in these last, I don't know how weeks. So, you know, with Jonathan Taylor, that's a guy that I think made a really good second half push in the fantasy season. And I think he's kind of solidified himself as maybe one of the top backs going into next year. Because, you know, I don't think Christian's going to have the same value he had last year. Derrick Henry might, but it's just the amount of carries he has on his body. That's going to be a hard bet for him to stay healthy. You know,
it's going to be Taylor and Eckler.
Yeah, Taylor. Eckler's another guy too, because didn't he get injured last year? He got injured last year. Yeah, so,
he's been healthy pretty much all this year, and which is he's not my MVP. But if I'm looking at my teams, I'd probably give it to Herbert. But, you know, Eckler's a huge beneficiary of Herbert. But Herbert's, I think, the number 3 quarterback right now in fantasy. You know, if you were in an auction draft, I'm sure you didn't have to pay too much for him. I know I didn't, you know, compared to a Mahomes or a Josh Allen or something like that. Yeah. But look, man, they just move the ball. They use their running back almost more so in the passing game than they do in the running game. So that benefits Herbert. But, yeah, I mean, looking at the running backs, though, I mean, Taylor for sure. He's RB MVP pretty much. I don't think you can question that just with all the injuries. Maybe Joe Mixon. I think, you know, he's probably been mixed in into the mix.
You got to look at where he was drafted. He was he was like an early second round guy.
Yeah. Man. So if you spent your first couple draft picks on one of the guys that got injured, you kind of got screwed this season.
McCaffrey, man.
Especially McCaffrey and Saquon. Those are kind of the two that
Saquon was a little obvious though.
It should have been.
He came in the season injured, catastrophic injury. He was not 100%. They say he was going to be on a snap count for the first couple of games. Like, you knew what you were getting yourself into with Saquon Barkley. Yep. Like, if he, like when he got injured, I'm like, is anyone actually surprised?
No.
Christian McCaffrey, though. Come on.
Yeah.
That was brutal.
This dude almost cost me a playoff spot, man. I was 5 weeks without a stud running back, and this dude almost cost me. I'm done with Christian McCaffrey on my team. I gave him a second chance. No third chance, man. Fool me 3 times, shame on me.
Yeah, I'm not going for any McCaffrey stock either. But, I mean, I guess you could say that stock that you had McCaffrey may go to a player like Najee next year, because Najee, I think, might be with a better quarterback since Ben has kind of said, I'm not going to be with the Steelers
He's
next
retired,
year.
right? He says
Yeah,
he's
No,
retired.
he said it's his last year in Pittsburgh. That's what he said.
Oh,
if anybody takes Ben,
who's going to want Big Ben?
Who's
The New York
taking
Jets, man.
Oh, my God. You want to talk about a garbage. Like, that would be such a desperation move. I wouldn't even, I couldn't even think of another scenario that's better or worse for Ben than the Jets.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
That would just be crazy.
It'd be his final payday. That's what he would be doing.
Yeah, I think it's probably a retirement season for Ben because I don't really know any position or any team that would be in position to take him. Because he's not going to be, I don't think Big Ben strikes me as a guy that's going to be a great mentor towards an up-and-coming QB. So I don't think he's a guy that needs to be on anybody's roster next year. Hall of Fame player, all that, but no, he's out of here.
I do also have to quickly shout out, and I know I'm switching real quick. Justin Jefferson, man, was the only other wide receiver that I considered as an MVP. But Thielen takes all of his touchdowns, man. I mean, Thielen is just, he's taken everything. He's a 10 touchdowns this year, very quietly, I might add. He's not getting that much yardage. But Jefferson just gets all the yards, and then they throw to Adam Thielen in the red zone. So I think if you're in the playoffs right now in fantasy and you have Justin Jefferson, you are sitting pretty right now because Thielen's going to be out for at least probably 2-3 weeks. I don't think they're putting him on IR, but he's got a high ankle sprain. So he's the only other wide receiver that I think was seriously in contention with Cooper Kupp. But yeah, and the only other one that crossed my mind too was Deontay Johnson. I thought he consistency, man. Kind of going back to the Steelers real quick. He's now put together a couple huge seasons in a row, solidifying him as a number one. I know he went relatively high this past year, but as long as he's meeting expectations, you can consider, still drafting him in that same spot, if not a little bit higher, going forward. But with Big Ben, we'll see. Without him, we'll see.
Man, I agree with you, man. Justin Jefferson, man, his consistency this year, he has one game below double-digit points.
Ridiculous.
1 week. One week as a wide receiver where you don't control how many targets you get. This guy has one mediocre game in every game above double-digit points, and he dropped a couple of new games of dropping 30 points. So having that upside at the wide receiver position, my Lord, man. Justin Jefferson, shout-outs to this guy. I had him last year on waivers, man. It was beautiful to have Justin Jefferson last year on waivers. But this kid, man, I still remember the article. Shout-outs to whoever wrote this ESPN article about Justin Jefferson and compared him to Randy Moss, because that article stuck with me, man. That was the only reason I knew his name. He compares like, this dude can have a Randy Moss season. I was like, I do like upside. I'm all about that upside. You got the upside scale, man. You got upside like Randy Moss. Give me that stock. And this guy last year was not a fluke. This guy is special. Back-to-back seasons, like he's putting up pretty similar numbers to Odell Beckham Jr.'s first 2 years when he became a rookie. So this guy's off to a great start. Hopefully he continues.
Let's hope his trend is different.
Yeah, do not pull an Odell on the Cleveland Browns, man. That dude's a disgrace.
Yeah, man. We definitely don't need a situation where, and plus too with Odell, he's also been injury prone. So hopefully Justin Jefferson kind of stays in the healthy because I don't think he's really had any big time injuries at all for his first 2 years in the league. So. And I also think if you're looking at just futures with rookies coming into the league, now LSU, because I know you guys are not really well versed in the college football realm, but LSU just got Brian Kelly, who's an offensive mastermind. And if you just want to take stock in LSU receivers, I guess it don't matter where they get drafted, just go ahead and take you one. Because Jarvis is another example. Odell, he had his run. Justin Jefferson, JaMarr Chase, they just produce guys that know how to get open and get you really good fantasy points. So I think that would be whoever the top guy coming out of LSU. It doesn't matter if he gets drafted in the 6th round. Look to see if he's got a pretty decent quarterback and just go ahead and put him on your bench because he's probably going to pop it off because they just know how to get open. So that's going to be another guy, like you say. With JaMarr, I'm more bullish on his future in terms of fantasy just because of Joe. If Joe Burrow can stay healthy, I think he's going to have massive season with the Bengals. I think he is because he's another guy who. I wouldn't say he's as flashy in terms of Justin Jefferson with route running, but he just gets open all the time. And that whole stuff with him not being able to see the ball and can't catch it was fool's gold because he knows how to get open. He knows how to catch the ball. So, with him, and plus two, them having Mixon is going to open up things even more for him. So he's another guy I'm looking at that's going to be in for some big futures in fantasy. I like him a lot. Can't really think of anybody.
You going to draft him next year, Zoo?
Man, that's top secret, man. That's top secret. I'm keeping it low key, man. Low key.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he's got to be the rookie of the year. I mean, you look at Waddle's kind of made a push, and Chase has had a pretty damn quiet 4 or 5 game stretch. I really don't think he's had more than 5 catches, maybe even 50 yards in a game. Scored a couple touchdowns.
His target volume, man.
But
like
his
11
targets,
10 targets, 9 targets.
Exactly.
Like he's getting targets, and he's been producing like 9 for 10, 9 for 11, 8 for 9. That is unbelievable efficiency.
Yeah, I mean, it is. And he just hasn't gotten as much yardage in big plays because I think teams are now like, okay, we have to put our number 1 corner on this guy. And now Burrow's he's leveraging T. Higgins, who's also a legit wide receiver. He's been producing with JaMarr Chase kind of, just getting 40, 50 yards, drawing a lot of attention away and allowing, these other guys to step up, especially when Tyler Boyd's kind of slowed down a little bit. So, I mean, JaMarr has to be the rookie of the year. You'd probably throw Waddle in there too, if you were able to draft him, and then Najee. I feel like those are kind of the big 3. Najee just doesn't get as many touchdowns as I would like. I think they kind of he's a PPR monster though. He just gets 7, 8 catches a game, and
he gets like 100 scrimmage yards, man. Just
exactly.
They got nobody else. Like outside of Deontay Johnson, like Najee Harris, like the second option. And Big Ben.
I love Deontay.
He's about to leave, so those 2 guys are getting it done.
I think and I'm not saying Big Ben's he's been pretty bad this year, considering where he fell from. But man, if Pittsburgh gets a quarterback, I think Deontay's going to explode. Because like you say, he's dealing with a quarterback that's kind of on the downside, and I just think they get maybe. And I feel like that's another thing with Debo too. Like if you listen to the reports coming out of San Francisco, them saying we're definitely moving on with Jimmy G in the offseason. If that is truly the case and Trey Lance comes out and he is what they say he is, then that can maybe pop Debo off even more. So it's all about quarterbacks coming in and, doing what they're supposed to do and being productive. The receiver got to have the quarterback to get you the ball. So a lot of these number 1 receivers, it's all about your quarterback. And in college, there's a couple of guys. Jamison Williams, I'm not sure if he's draft eligible. He played in the ACC championship game. He's got a lot of waddle, but he's like 6'1", so it makes him really intriguing. He's like a guy who came from Ohio State, transferred down, or not down, but to Alabama. And the 2 Ohio State receivers, Olave and Wilson, they're really good. They're like 6 foot, but they're super twitchy and can get out. So
Smith and Jigba might be ineligible, though. I think he needs another year.
He's a sophomore, I think. Pretty sure.
Well, he might be able to. Yeah, they have a couple of damn good players coming out of Ohio State at the wide receiver spot, though.
Yeah. LSU, Ohio State, Alabama, there's a lot of those guys, especially the Alabama guys. They're usually now sometimes they don't maybe pan out in terms of being like superstars in the league, but you pretty much know if you're getting a better play, you're going to get a guy that's working hard. That's probably going to be ready to play in the NFL. There's not going to be a lot of transition time, especially with some of their skill guys. So there's always guys you got to kind of look out for in the future. Mm-hmm. But we're going to see, man. And like you say, quarterback wise, I have no idea in the draft who's going to be any good because I don't know if they have any like.
Who's the Pitt kid?
Bro. Yeah, the Kenny Pickett guy. He's got a lot of wheels. And he's pretty accurate with the ball. But he did play in the ACC, so that kind of maybe he's gonna have to have some strong pro days. I feel like to maybe rise up the board. Because I didn't know this, but I was listening to I think it was the Herd, and they were talking. Joy, I think she's originally from Pittsburgh, and she was saying the Pittsburgh Steelers don't really like taking Pitt Panthers as like any type of draft pick because of the public pressure if they don't pan out. It's a lot of like they're
politics.
Right there. Yeah, there's like a lot of politics within more so I guess than other cities and school like pro teams and college teams. So I think it's been I don't know that would maybe be a guy they could look at, but I think Pittsburgh Steelers may go somewhere in like free agency with like another quarterback. This may be described. Yeah. Who knows? Like you said, like Russell with the Giants, but he could pull a 180 and go straight to the Steelers.
Yeah,
he saw Deontay Johnson popping off. So we'll see. Like you say, it's a lot of fantasy talk we did for today. Just because it's the playoffs coming up in fantasy, and a couple guys that give you that you people can look at as potential picks and things of that for next year. So as usual with the NBA starting to ramp it up, it is December, so Christmas games are right around the corner. We're getting close to like maybe the midway mark. Like I say, it is really surprising how these standings have kind of shaped out, especially in the Eastern Division. Like you said, I love the Nets. I love their top 2 guys, but there's got to be a situation where Harden cranks it up because if not, that is going to be a very interesting conference to look forward to in the playoffs. So we're going to be talking about that over the next couple of weeks, and the NFL, of course. So make sure you guys follow us on Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, all that jazz. Make sure you follow us on Bullheaded_pod. We're going to be doing a lot of NFL, NBA, things of that nature. And for me, Sue and P. Bush, we're out.